Fam, I want to be a white woman so bad. Criminal Damage is the brand based here in London, and they sent me all of these pieces to work on as a part of an ongoing collaboration. So I'm starting off this video by making patches for the long sleeve white shirt that they sent me. So for this design, I've decided to revisit the Hannya Masks motif. The word Hannya translates to wisdom. This is because Hannya Bo, the original artist monk who created the mask, was said to be extremely wise. Hannya masks were traditionally used in plays to portray the souls of women that were corrupted by obsession and jealousy. Step 1. So in my process, I usually paint directly onto the fabric, which for me is very simple. However, because the piece I'm working on is made of t-shirt material, it's very thin. This means that if I paint directly onto it, the paint will spill through to the other side, ruining the back of the shirt. I could have solved this problem by simply putting a plastic sheet inside the shirt. However, the paint would still bleed through to the inside of the shirt, making it really uncomfortable to wear. So to solve this, I'm going to paint onto an old shirt and then sew the design as a patch onto this new one. I designed this Hannya mask using Adobe Illustrator and added the flames to extend the design up the arm. I then printed off the design and drew around them, cutting off pieces as I went along until I had the full design outlined. So last week I customized these Converse All-Stars out of felt and fabric paint, and I had a few questions, so I'm just gonna highlight one here now. Ashton Draw Stuff said, okay, so I want to customize shoes, but what different preparation / prep would you do for different types of shoes? Love the vid, quality's getting better and better. So if you're painting a leather shoe, I would suggest using this. It's a professional leather preparer and deglazer. What it does is it gets rid of the factory finish on leather, which means that the paint can bond to it a bit more easily. And if you're painting a canvas shoe like a Converse All-Star, you're probably better off painting a layer of gesso first. Also, if you're working on trainers and you want to do different colors but you don't want them to bleed through, I would suggest using a good tape. Not this one. This is the tape that I used last week and literally everything bled through. I had to start again with a lot of it. I ended up using an electrical tape which worked way better than this, but this is an example of why you can't use the cheapest thing that you can find all the time. You guys know that I use cheap brushes because I think that it doesn't really matter about the brush, but it turns out with this, it does need to be at least, I'm not gonna say expensive, but you need to get a good product, because when I say this did nothing, I mean, it still worked out pretty good, so I'm not completely upset, but you know, at the end of the day, if I had a better tape, it would have been way faster to finish it. So I would say make sure that you're using good materials. When I find a good tape, I'm gonna let you know. Or alternatively, if you guys actually know a good tape to use for shoes, please let me know in the comments, because then I'll try and use it and maybe review it. Maybe I could do a video on the best tapes to use and just lay them all out and see what works on a shoe. Ooh. Step 2. Now that I have my outlines, it's time to start the painting. This piece, along with the rest of the pieces that I painted with Criminal Damage, will all be available at the same time. So I wanted to take this opportunity to tell a color story that flows through the pieces, meaning that they can be worn together if you choose to. So I decided to stick to browns, greys and blacks. This makes for an interesting design that's still wearable for people that prefer understated outfits that still have a pop. I decided to keep the original color of the shirt that I cut out for the face and only paint the rest. This made for a really interesting textural difference, which I really liked. Once both sides were painted, I cut them out, ready to sew onto the sleeves. So you guys know I don't like to shy away from when I had a little bit of a problem with a piece. Truth be told, I'm not the best at sewing, so this part was actually really hard for me. If you're creative like us, then you know there's always that middle stage of your work where you start looking at your work like the Naruto friends look at Boruto. We wish you were never born. But it's always important to push through that part, because I believe that on the other side, that's where the greatness is. Step 3. To make double shoulder patches stay on, I used fabric glue to stick them onto the sleeve before going in with the embroidery hoop. Once the glue was dry, I attached the embroidery hoop and started sewing. Not gonna lie, I was really struggling to record this at the same time, so I filmed this part as a demo and did the rest off camera. The tricky part was sewing through the sleeves without being able to see what I was doing. However, I thought that if I bunch up the sleeves in a certain way, I can see both sides a bit more easily. Once the sewing was done, I used a heat gun for a few seconds to cure the paint, and then I painted a thin layer of acrylic finisher to make sure that the design doesn't come out in the wash. So I think it worked out really well. It's quite subtle, but it's still an interesting detail to have on a shirt. If you want to see what I do with the rest of the Criminal Damage pieces, subscribe for a new video every week. Thanks for the support, and see ya!